Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on the KTN Newsdesk on this 21st day of April 2016. My name is Akisa Wandera. Now, Kenya will establish a special division of the High Court to handle international criminal offences. According to Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai, the special division will be created in a matter of weeks. Addressing a news conference, the Attorney General reaffirmed that Kenya continues to cooperate with the Hague-based court, contrary to assertions by the ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda. He added that Kenya will not unilaterally pull out of the ICC, saying it will await a decision to be made by the entire African Union.
The government of Kenya's position that the charges against the three suspects for crimes that fall within Kenya's criminal justice jurisdiction can and ought to be effectively prosecuted and adjudicated domestically. Kenya therefore reserves her right under the Rome Statute to demand complementarity from the ICC, and moving forward, without prejudice to those ongoing cases, Kenya shall be engaging the ICC in seeking the handover of the investigation files, evidence, and other requisite information to support the preferring of charges and subsequent prosecution of the three persons locally. The government of Kenya welcomes the setting up of the International Crimes Division of the High Court, which the executive has been requesting for since 2012. This, in our view, will provide the framework to address all other outstanding cases.
Now, the High Court this morning started hearing a litigation case filed by 25 internally displaced persons with the assistance of 3 civil society organizations. This is a representative suit and covers all IDPs displaced during the 2007-2008 post-election violence in Eldoret, Kericho, Kisumu, Isiolo, Naivasha, Bungoma, Nakuru, Kisii, Trans Nzoia, Nyandarua, Meru, Mombasa, Nairobi, and Laikipia. The case, which was filed in 2011, has seen 6 witnesses testify on how the 2007-2008 post-election violence impacted negatively on their lives. The objective of this case is to establish that the government of Kenya violated its constitutional obligation to protect the citizens of Kenya during and after the violence. Let us now join our reporter, Michelle Ngele, who is at the High Court attending that hearing, to just give us an update of that case. Thank you very much for joining us, Michelle. And straight into it, has the hearing been concluded today?
Good afternoon, Akisa. The hearing for the day has already been concluded. We only had one witness taking the stand today, and that was one Dr. Dina Kitui, who is one of the less than 4 counseling trauma psychologists that we have in Kenya. Now, this is a psychologist that has been working closely with victims and IDPs from the 2007 and 2008 post-election violence. And going by her testimony today, many of these victims have suffered deep post-traumatic stress disorder as well as severe depression. And as much as this is a case against by internally displaced persons, Akisa, it is a representative case representing all victims of the post-election violence. And some of them were detailing today what they went through during the post-election violence, from victims of the sexual and gender-based violence to victims who lost their limbs, victims who lost their families. And many of them, according to this doctor, are on the brink of suicide, especially considering that trauma counseling or trauma treatment in Kenya is so expensive that a 2-hour session costs about 15,000 shillings. And so they're asking for compensation from the government to be able to continue with their treatment, even as they ask to be resettled as other displaced persons, Akisa.
Now, Michelle, what exactly are the petitioners seeking?
Well, Akisa, the petitioners are 25 internally displaced persons who are seeking compensation. In 2012, there was a fund that was availed to compensate IDPs, and according to that fund, each IDP was to get about 400,000 shillings, which was to help them restart a new life. But again, the government had stated that they had no intentions of compensating integrated IDPs. And these are IDPs that decided to flee and reintegrate themselves into society by staying with family or friends as they get back on their feet. And these IDPs are now saying that some of them have been given 10,000 shillings or 15,000 shillings, but they're questioning who exactly decides who is to get less money than the other. So they want the government to compensate all victims equally, and they do not want the discrimination with the government saying that they have already been integrated into society, and so they do not need the funds that the government has already given. And so now they want justice, and they say that they have hope and faith in the Kenyan justice system that they will be compensated, Akisa.
Right, thank you very much, Michelle, for that update. Michelle Ngele, our reporter there, joining us via phone from the High Court, where the hearing on the IDP case seeking compensation has been concluded or adjourned to the 24th of May. Let us now cross over to Eldoret for further analysis of this case. We will be joined by our political analyst, Philip Chebunet, who is on standby from Eldoret just to give us further analysis on this particular case. Very many thanks for joining us, Philip, on KTN Newsdesk. Straight into it, do you think the handling of the IEBC has been done well by the government? How has the handling been, according to you?
Thank you very much. Remember, after the post-election violence of 2007, the government really took steps to settle the families. In the first instance, remember that they settled the 19,500 post-election violence victims. And then after that, the government also took steps and gave them 25,000 each to take care of themselves. And since then, IDP camps have been closed. You remember the February last year when the deputy president and the chairman of the IDPs were holding a meeting, and the chairman of the IDPs, Mr. Kidinji, announced that this would be the last resettlement. And in fact, he said any other person coming out and saying he's an IDP would be masquerading as an IDP. So the government has really done a lot. In fact, the president the other day in Nakuru announced that now they would be going to the integrated IDPs. But the main problem that has been there is that most IDPs have come out, and some have even masqueraded. You remember this week, there is a man who has been arrested, and this man has actually been recruiting fake IDPs. So when the government is working very hard, they are also supporters in this process of settling the genuine IDPs.
But Philip, there's been a word, or that many have said that not everyone who was affected by the post-election violence was resettled. There has been questions of what happens to IDPs in the western region of this country and some parts of Nairobi that have seen to not have been resettled. What would you say about that? Are we still calling this this other crop of IDPs as ingenuine?
I think what has happened is that as the government is going on settling the IDPs, I think the government has tried around 90% of the IDPs have been resettled. But there's a lot of politics in it. You saw the other day when CORD was holding their rally, they paraded some of the perceived IDPs. So the government's efforts have really been have really been hampered by the re-emergence of other IDPs. So I think what's happening is that there needs to be a process to identify the remaining group of IDPs, because most of them that are coming out now, investigation should be done to find out whether they are genuine. So there's a lot of politics surrounding this resettlement. And also some people are perceiving as that maybe other areas have been neglected, which actually needs to be looked into, so that but you cannot satisfy everybody. You may not satisfy everybody, because the remaining ones, especially the integrated ones, there are some who have really settled with their relatives. It will be difficult to find out really who are these integrated IDPs.
Philip, before I let you go, Philip, let me just interject a bit. Yes. Before I let you go, as we are talking about the issue of resettlement of IDPs, will this be the final step of justice for the victims of the post-election violence? Does it end at resettling, or there's more that should be done?
I think during the prayers that were held in Nakuru, supposedly because of the prayer, it was concluded that let us start a new chapter in our country, a chapter of reconciliation, a chapter of healing, and so as the government finalizes the remaining IDPs, I think some IDPs came out and really wanted forgiveness and barring these issues of IDP resettlement. So I think maybe I could see some have gone to court. There's a case that is coming up on Thursday. There are some that have gone to court. I think these issues needs to come to a conclusion, because if we go to court and coming up with other cases, it's going to drag this country that is healing into court cases, and it will not be so good.
All right, thank you very much, Philip, for those insights. Philip Chabunet there, a political analyst, joining us from Eldoret, giving us insights, saying then it's